You're listening to Reckless Creatives, a Pipeline Artists original podcast, where Sadie Dean and Jeanne Bowerman share the candid truth about the challenges and benefits of living life as artists.
So,
Thom Harp.
yes. First of all, I should have said, hey, Thom Harp, but hey, Sadie Dean.
Hey, Jeannie. JVV,
God.
the MVP. How are you?
I am obsessed with Thom Harp now.
Ugh.
Literally
What a
obsessed.
lovely human being.
Can everyone be like that?
You know, we were talking about how we don't like people before we even started recording.
Yeah.
But Thom is the exception.
You know what? He made me like people again.
Yeah. Yeah. He brought us back around.
He showed me the light. All the people.
All the people.
And I'm also thinking that I'm going to need some guitars, even if they're just props.
You know what? I support this. I'm sure Thom supports this too.
I need to get one of those little tiny, like baby. Oh, I can get a little ukulele and just
Eat it. Something like this. Of course, I have a tiny guitar.
Of course you do.
Yeah. So you just put them up on your wall everywhere behind you.
Or I could put it in a place that it looks life size. Like, just, oh my God. Okay. So
Right.
Obviously Thom has guitars. Yeah. I just love that you two are musicians, that you two are writer, directors. Thom and Sadie up in a tree, not KISSING, but directing together and playing
Directing
guitars.
in a treehouse, one location.
Oh God,
during the day.
Treehouse might replace the Reckless Creative van as a goal.
I don't know. My heart's still on that van.
I want the van. I want Thom in the van, and I want to drive right past a home birth and do not enter.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay, but we are going to watch Home Delivery. We're getting a little punchy.
I don't know if it's a we getting punchy.
Okay. I am getting a little punchy. I will own it. Okay, I'm going to just breathe and not be punchy. So Thom Harp is really awesome. And we are talking about Thom Harp, and we haven't really given you a full description of the amazing Thom Harp. We will put his full bio in the show notes. So scroll down and look at it, because nobody wants to hear us read it. But let me just say, he's a writer, director. We also learned that he could pretty much do anything.
Mm-hmm.
A cinematographer.
He worked for Funny or Die. He did a narrative podcast with Rainn Wilson, who's a frequent collaborator. He's just doing all of it, and he's good at it.
I was very proud of myself because I didn't gush about how much I love Rainn Wilson. I mean, I do love beats. Just saying. So Thom he's got this new feature coming out called Home Delivery, which you will hear us talk about, but not just the feature. We also hit on some great things about keeping your budget low, like things to think about with that. I feel like budget is a theme. We talked about that last time too.
Mindset. We talked about mindset. Just super important. Get rid of that self-critic. Be your own champion.
And you are going to want to get a magnet.
Get a magnet. Yes.
Get a magnet. You'll understand. A little hairy magnet. So we're going to shut up because I'm getting too silly. Enjoy Thom.
Yes. Hey, guitars.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
I like yours. Was that a Gretsch behind you, or is that a Les Paul?
It is actually it's a weird model Fender. It's called a Starcaster.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
It's fun.
You have a lot behind you.
So do you.
I'm feeling very inadequate.
No, you shouldn't feel inadequate at all.
We have a problem. You're fine.
No, it's so funny because that was one of the things that I was telling my wife. I was like, basically the way that all of this started is I had this guitar that I had built myself when I was like 18. I mean, I didn't wire it, but I was like, here's the wood and here's the neck and
Right.
here's the pickups that I want, and gave
Yeah.
it to a person who did it, and they put it together, and it's the same one that I'd had for most of the time since. I played in a cover band in college and all that kind of stuff. And then our kids go to an elementary school, and there were these auction items, and one of the auction items was a guitar from Elliot Easton, who was the lead guitarist for the Cars. And I had always had a soft spot for the Cars. I thought they were great. She said, would you want a new guitar? And I was
Uh-oh.
like, I mean, yeah. So then she said, okay, great. I'm going to bid on it. About 2 days later, she said, how much is too much to spend on this? And I was like, oh, definitely, definitely don't spend more than $1,200. Because as much as I like the issue, she's like, oh, shit. So what happened is it was bidding up and bidding, and she was about to click $1,600. And I was like, no way. But then I was like, wait a minute. She was willing to spend.
Yeah.
So I said, I was like, what if I were to upgrade my guitar? And that started me down this path. And now it's like, and then my new thing was like, when I sold a script, I would make another guitar.
Treat yourself. Yeah. That makes
So
sense. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel for your wife. My husband, these aren't all the guitars I have. I have more, but they are now living at other people's houses because he's like, there's too many here. We don't have room for the cases and the guitars, and it's too much. And, I'm saying it's just an investment in our future, hopefully. And,
absolutely,
hopefully it pays off, so.
I think it's the coolest thing. And there was this beautiful interview that, again, my wife found of Prince talking about he didn't want to license his music to Guitar Hero because he really wanted people to learn how to play the guitar for real. He said it's a hard instrument, but there's nothing like the feeling of creating music and doing something that puts something of yours out into the world, and just simply playing a video game with guitar wasn't the same thing. So I always think about that a lot. And the fact that the guitars are places that kids can pick them up. I have a son who now he's in a band, and he loves making music, and my wife grew up playing violin and classically trained stuff. She's a genius. Like she's like next level everything.
You gotta marry
next
up,
level
right?
guitar bidder.
I put the ring on before the hair went. It was.
Well, I actually did play the guitar when I was 5,
oh.
but I quit, and this is going to age me. I quit because it was on Saturday mornings, and I had to miss HR Puff and stuff.
Yeah, totally. I understand missing Saturday morning cards. I lived in a house with a very restricted TV thing. Like we were allotted. We had like you had to buy the time, and then I would always run home, and when no one was around, I would watch reruns of Batman because I had such a crush on Batgirl.
Who didn't?
I know. And of course, what did I do? I married a brainy redhead. Same thing. She doesn't wear spandex.
Yet. Give her time. One of these days, she's going to shock you.
We have been married a long time, and I have asked. Not happening.
What I love about you musician people is that so much of what you were saying when you were talking about the guitars and creating really applies to writing too. Do you think a lot of you carry over a lot of stuff from your music into your writing and directing?
That's it. First of all, that's a great question because I hadn't thought of those two together before. I know that, like, I went to see John Carpenter last year, and he literally composes the scores to his own movies. It's very rare. Yeah. I have not thought to do that myself. I really like working with composers, so that's part of it. But there is something about the physicality of an instrument that does get you a little bit out of your brain. And when I play with other people and playing in a band, you had to listen. You had to really respond. Directing wise, I think that's a very strong correlation. Like, I don't ever want to be the person who tells everyone exactly how I want it to be. I think that one of the things that makes comedy special is that it catches you off guard. And that's why we laugh, is it's something that is so unusual. Like, I love rewatching comedy, and I love appreciate the craft and the performances the second time, but that completely spontaneous, absolutely unfiltered response is not something that you can necessarily replicate. And it's that high that I know a lot of comedians chase, especially stand-ups. They chase that. They want to hear that new laugh. In terms of writing, I think that it's that idea of creating something anew. For me, when I'm sitting down and playing, I don't play a lot of covers. Just when I'm sitting and playing by myself, I'll just have fun. I'll be like, oh, that's beautiful. And I play with an old college friend and another guy, and I'll literally set my phone up and record it. I'm like, it's something like this. And we'll play new music that's not ever really meant to necessarily get out into the world. But at the same time, there's something really that's why I was so resonant what Prince said, because it's that thing of when you create something yourself, it is powerful. It's that bringing something into existence that wasn't there before. And I don't mean to say that you can't get that feeling, because obviously actors are Shakespearean actors are not making up lines. They're using lines that already exist, but they're finding a way to make it live in their body in a way that's unique to them. And so every single thing that we do it's always unique to our experience. You can't help but bring in the part of you that is inherently you to whatever you're doing. So the gift that I've been given is that the writing that I did connected with people, and so I was able to do more of it. Like, that's the thing that's so nice. I feel very fortunate, that from the very beginning of once I started writing, there was always someone who loved what I did. I really feel like as a parent that hit home, because it's that job. I feel like it's the job of a parent to be the uncritical fan and to root for your success all the time. And then now that my kids are older and I can talk to them about how to make what they do better, they know foundationally that I love and support them, so they don't equate their value with their work. And I think that that's something that, having lived experience and having I think that I would be a much different writer had I not decided to run off to Alaska with my wife, and follow her on her medical school career, than if I'd stayed in LA and done the grind. I don't think that I know that I wouldn't tell the same stories, because I know that my writing really comes from the lived experiences that I've had, and being a fan of people, like a real lover of people, and wanting to and hearing something and being like, I'm gonna have to use that in a story. That's so good. Like, that's fantastic. And just knowing that, my connection to people is the reason why I tell stories. It's not to hear myself talk. It's just, I love that idea of making that connection and finding the things that make, and we need it a lot right now. I think that we're so divided, and then we all want to hear like the voices of support for us. And ultimately, I feel like, you have to start from the base where you love yourself and you have people in your life who give you that love and support, warts and all. For me, the reason why I'm attracted to comedy is because life is ridiculous. Like, my wife would never have been like, yes, I definitely want to marry a guy who's bald. Like, she never would have said that right in the beginning, but she would never want to be married to anyone else because of who I am as a person. And her love inspires me to be my best, and my kids inspire me to be my best. But I feel like the mirror that life gives us is that our lives are ridiculous. I mean, everything about it is absolutely so silly. And the first moment where I knew that I wanted to write comedy was I had my firstborn, and just a giant explosive diarrhea shot out all over my shirt, all over everything. And the look on her face was so happy. She was just so delighted that she'd gotten that out, and she was like, all good. And she looked up at me and she was like, you're my person. And I looked down and I was like, you just soiled everything and I love you so much. And that moment was really it honestly was a crucible because I'd kind of always wanted to be like a David Lynch kind of filmmaker. Like I'd been
Mm-hmm.
attracted to that in college and in film school, my stuff was definitely darker. And
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like the change that happened was seeing life as being absolutely ridiculous and trying to find a way to celebrate that.
It's probably like just on a day-to-day basis, like a hell of a lot more fun.
Yeah.
People talk about mindset a lot and how if you're looking for things to go wrong, they're going to go wrong. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for all the ways that you're going to be hurt in the world, then you're going to be hurt. And if you're looking at everything as being, someone is going to injure you in life, then they will. If you set yourself up for, and look, I'm very fortunate that I don't have any neurochemical stuff that makes my worldview baseline challenging. I know people like that. I have them in my family. I love them and I feel for them. And thank God there's great medicine. Like I believe in
Yeah.
medicine and I believe in like, it's not fair that someone doesn't have the neurochemical mix to be able to kind of see, oh, it's going to be fine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not to say that I'm not stressed out about all sorts of stuff or whatever, but I keep trying to return to the things that give me joy
Mm-hmm.
and to the thing. And if I find a challenge, I'm like the way that I always try to reframe it is, well, what's the funny version of this? Like, where is this ridiculous? Like, what's the ridiculous in this? And that helps a lot.
And I always say, like, when something's going on in life, and I apologize if you can hear my dog feeder, I have an automatic dog feeder. That I always say in life that when something goes wrong, like you can look at the cup half full or half empty and about to be bone dry. Like, but I always think to myself, huh, yeah, this is really pissing me off right now. But like, is this the thing I'm going to be thinking about when I take my last breath? Because it's
Right.
not. I'm not even going to remember that it happened. Like, I'm not even going to
Mm-hmm.
remember that it happened next week. So let all that
Mhm.
stuff go because it doesn't matter. Focus on what really matters, family, whatever brings you joy. And
Totally.
it ain't nothing but a thing. It'll, you
And
know,
and I think that I remember there was a girl who I was so interested in.
did she wear spandex?
But she rode a motorcycle.
Oh,
Ooh.
okay.
Bad girl connection. No, but I thought she was so cool and I wanted to be cool enough for her to fall in love with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said stuff like, I'm gonna die alone, which like for a college guy who loved David Lynch, I was like, oh, that sounds fantastic.
Right.
Um, like how then
I'm
I'm gonna
in.
prove her wrong. And it's like, you know what? That is so much work. And I wish
Yeah.
her all the I wish her well in the world,
Yeah.
but I
Yes.
definitely, I just to me now that's hilarious that I was that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have compassion for that person, but I also want to poke fun at that person. And for me, comedy, as long as I'm not punching down, I think it's fair
Mm-hmm.
game. Like
Yeah.
I never want to make fun of someone who is in a position where there's a power imbalance. You like that's
Mm-hmm.
not fair. It's that's
Mm-hmm.
and so I really feel like and for me, comedy is really going to the whole notion of it being a mirror. I find that my characters are their own worst enemies. So when someone says, "Well, who's the antagonist?" I'm like, "The hero is the antagonist because they're the one who's making their lives miserable. Like they're the ones who are getting in their
Mm-hmm.
own way." Um, and a big engine for me, and it didn't happen. Someone pointed it out after I finished home delivery was that I'm attracted to stories where it seemed like a good idea at the time. Like, and it's true. Like I recognize there's something magical about that because it's aspirational. We can always get behind someone who wants something, who's like desperate to get something. And at the same time, they're almost too smart for their own good. even if they're not necessarily a smart, it's like they haven't thought out all the ways that it could go wrong. So then it's my job to think of all the ways to make it go wrong, to put them through that. And hopefully at the other end, in everything that I've done, the journey is a journey of self-discovery. And what you say you want at the beginning is probably not what you need. And that's where like it changes over the course of the movie to I wanted this, but what I needed was this. And when you recognize that need at the end and you kind of come to terms with that, hopefully there's some grace for yourself. I just feel like that's ultimately my kind of story. That's why I'm not really the hard satire person. Like I definitely, but I love them. I just that's not kind of where I land in terms of what I tend to write or what I gravitate towards for the stories that I want to tell.
Do you have like a running list of just, I don't know, the what ifs, probabilities of like that you want to explore that you're pulling from your own life? Or is it just, it comes to you and then you're like, yeah, that's something I'll explore down the line? Or I'm just curious about your process and tackling these stories with these characters.
One of my favorite characters I've ever written is this, and it's a co-writing, so I'm not trying to, I don't want to take attention away from what my co-writer did. But there's a character in a thing that hopefully we're going to get done this year, who is a driver's ed teacher, and he is, and we couldn't figure him out because we just were like, we had done this short film called Driver's Ed, and it played in festivals, and it got a lot of attention. And so when we thought of doing it as a feature, we just kind of had the same character, but that's not a really engaging character. And then I was like, I think I have this crazy idea. And I was like, just give me like 5 minutes. And I wrote down a manifesto for what this guy would think. And he's like, he's the kind of person who's like, the ability to drive should be in the Constitution. It's like it's the key to your freedom. It's the way that you develop. It's like the way that you go into the world. And suddenly I understood, like, oh, this is a guy who probably also listens to a lot of hair metal, but is the he's got this vision of like cars equal freedom. And if I can teach a person how to drive, then I can give them their freedom. And then that gave him a purpose. And suddenly the character just leaped off the page. And and so sometimes I'll have an idea that will be like home delivery, home birth. That is a setting. And it's a cauldron because you can't leave. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to do is explore the sort of that boiling point that you get to when there's really no way to get away, and you're all there for a common purpose, and you're supposed to be on your best behavior, but after a while, when it doesn't go well, like all the old stuff comes out. So I just knew that it was a great setting, but I also needed to find the people who were the right people for that setting. And so while there's aspects of me and we had two births, and then we adopted our third. So I had the idea of it was important for me to bring adoption into this story. It was important to talk about, we had a wonderful experience with a midwife and a wonderful experience with a doula, but we also needed to be in a hospital because things were nothing like what happened in the movie, although that did happen to a friend of mine. So like I knew that as soon as I had that setting though, I started to find these other ideas. And I think of it like when I was a kid, I had one of those big U-shaped magnets, and we would go in the dirt and then you'd pull it out and it looked hairy because it was full of all the metal fragments. I feel like an idea, whatever the first idea is, then I need to put it in the dirt of my brain and just kind of see what sticks to it. Like what is what is there a character that sticks to it? Is there a person that sticks to it? Is there a memory of something? As soon as I've got it like 65% set, then I can, where I know, okay, here's essentially the world, here's essentially the characters, here's essentially what I want to say with it. Then I start thinking, well, what are the people that this story needs to happen to? Like what is the person for whom this is the worst kind of thing? So, a control freak, being put into a home birth situation is going to have a very extreme reaction. So the mom became more of a control freak. And I was like, okay. And then I have, my mom and aunts and all this kind of stuff their various characteristics filter in through that. But that was the like, okay, control, someone who needs to be in control and who's worried about losing control. And then someone who is absolutely chaos is another person to put into that mix. So suddenly you find all the things and that's where I get the characters from. And so the characters then are composites of people I know and or stories I've heard. And then once I find the person it needs to happen to and the setting then I think, okay, well, what are the worst things I can do to that person? And that's kind of when the story comes together. It's like I know that I have to get this. I need to get everyone to the point in this story where they're at each other's throats, and then something happens that then they're either going to split off forever and it's never going to be reconciled, or they're going to circle the wagons and it's going to work out. And because it's not a tragedy, because it's a comedy, I believe in them finding a way to work it out. Does this mean it's going to be every family gathering is going to be smooth sailing from here on in? Absolutely not. But they know they can get through it because of what they did on this one. So
it's kind of like Little Miss Sunshine in the delivery room.
And that's one of my favorite movies.
Same.
Like I really, when people ask me what movies this is kind of in conversation with, I feel like there's a lot of Juno in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of, because in Juno, no one's the bad guy. Like that was really important to me, is that no one's the bad guy. Everyone's doing their best, and no one is wrong. Like that's the other thing is I told Leslie Ann Warren, I'm like, you're right all the time. Like everything you're saying is right, but they can't hear that. But you're not wrong. Like you're not the bad guy. She's like, it's so hard being so judgmental. I'm like, but someone needs to be to give that, like, and that's, one of the things that we talked about is like, don't play a character, play the reality and let your life experience inform those choices because I don't want it to ever go into caricature. Like Rain's character, it could go easily into caricature, but he's absolutely vital through the end. I mean, like, and no one could have predicted in the first 2 minutes to where he gets to in the last 2 minutes. No one would have seen that, but I knew that journey was consistent for him. So,
yeah, I've given birth. Sadie's given birth. We've like been there, done that. And my niece had a home birth. She's like, what's your advice on Jeanne? What's your advice? I never did home birth, but I said, be a monkey. I had watched like some documentary about a monkey giving birth, and she just got so focused. She didn't even make a peep. And she did this all naturally, all by herself. And she was just quiet and a peep. So like, I can't even imagine. And that's how I did it. So I can't even imagine if I was in monkey mode, like, and then my family coming in.
Oh yeah.
Like, it would just be like, I am a monkey right now and you need to leave.
Well, we had everyone come in because everyone wanted to be there for the birth because we had the first grandkid in the family. Because I got married pretty early and had kids pretty early. So we were the first ones. Like everyone was like, okay, so what do you like? We were the ones that people would come to for advice. I told my wife we were so smart because we had the cheapest wedding of all of our friends because everyone was like, well, you guys are like 24, 25. It's like you can't afford anything. Such a good plan. We got in and out for like 12 grand tops.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yes.
So
not doable now.
Not at all. So that's where I look at all that stuff of like, we broke a lot of ground, but that meant that we didn't know what the hell we were doing and we had no one letting us know anything. So we made all the mistakes. And that's a lot for me. That's where a lot of the comedy comes from. As soon as it was like, we had this really well-articulated birth plan and it just got thrown out the window. Like my wife's labor stopped. And when she was like, what is happening? And they were like, well, you could do these things. And she was like, I don't want to do the Pitocin. I don't want to do all this kind of stuff. And And then at a certain point, she was like, I'm so depressed that this isn't working. And I was like, it's fine. We can go home. And she's like, yeah, but she was in med school at the time. She's like, but I have to start classes in a couple of weeks. I mean, it was so, again, these are the things where our monkey should have taken the lead, but our, like New Yorker brain or whatever brain, the very cultured, the very, here's my to-do list and here's all the ways that, and I've read all the books and I've gone to all the classes, like that part of the brain didn't want to let go. And that's where, to me, the comedy of life comes from, is like, you just get in your own way all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All the time. So I like, when you were talking about filming this and how it's a home birth. So can we speak a little bit about that, like your business brain, like the budget brain, like one location? Like, were there more locations than this one, or I've only seen the trailer?
Well, there's, so here's, because I don't want to give any spoilers away, but
no, don't. Because everyone is going to go watch this because it opens on March 27th.
That's right.
Thank you. So here's what I will say. One of my dearest friends, and sadly she's passed, it was Lynn Shelton. And Lynn Shelton was a beautiful filmmaker. She made wonderful little stories. They were very humane, and we connected on the same kind of thing. We also had kids at the exact same time. Like we were in Seattle together. She was working as a freelance editor and I was working as a freelance cinematographer. So I shot a couple of her films, and she did one about miscarriage, and we had a miscarriage and she'd had a miscarriage. And so we just were very bonded and connected in that way. And I had a couple scripts get optioned, which was fantastic. And I was like, we're moving to LA and everything's going to be great. And they got optioned and never made. In the meantime, Lynn made two films that were like completely low budget, under the radar movies, but they got her to a point where she met Mark Duplass and they made their movie together, which is not Laggies. Hump Day. It's Hump Day. And Hump Day was a giant hit for them. I mean, it's not like it made millions and millions of dollars, but they made it the way that they wanted to make it, and it was Lynn's breakout thing. And she started directing TV after that, and was on a career. She just taken off. So I sat down with her and I was like, "Listen, I'm buying you lunch. We'll go to whatever place you want and order as much as you want. But here's what I need to know: how did you come up with that idea? And what is your advice on how to keep things cheap so that I can, because I'm so frustrated that these movies that, aren't getting made. And so I need to write something that I know can get made on a good budget." And she said that the most important thing is to lean into your strengths. Like, that's the thing. If you only have this, if you're only going to get one shot at it, you need to not make the kind of movie just because it's cheap. It needs to be something that leans into what you're good at, so that it can be a representative of what else you're able to do. So that was the number one thing. And barely anyone talks about that. And God bless her. She was so tuned in to, like, lean into the things that make you you, first of all. But on a practical level, limit the amount of screen time. And I don't mean length. It's like, oh, if you're only taking place over 1 day or 2 days, then you only need 1 or 2 changes of clothes. So then you're not like changing out of a lot of different wardrobes. So you save money on that, but you also save time. And then she said, and I knew this as a cinematographer, you get really stuck if you have to move multiple locations during 1 day, because each time you load in, it's like an hour and a half before you get your first shot. And that's generous to say. Like, it often is 2 hours. Then you rip it all down, go to another location, so it's an hour and a half plus the travel time, plus the time to tear it down. It just ends up eating your day. So she said, 1 location per day. Then she said, but if you're really smart, find a way to stay in one location for a while, because then you can leave everything there and you can get your first shot the next day at like 45 minutes instead of an hour and a half. And you can really hum it along. So for a while, I was really struggling with what would be a story that would be able to be told well, that wouldn't feel like it's a cheap story, that wouldn't feel like the story justifies being in one place.
Mm-hmm.
That was because I've seen a lot of movies where it's like, oh, it's two people talking around a table. Um, there's not really a reason for them to be there, or the reasons feel very artificial. But a home birth, you can't really go, like, it's baked in. So I knew when I had that idea that it was not only great for all the dramatic and comedic reasons, but also it justified being in a home. So then I explained to the producers, I was like, we need a house that's going to be beautiful enough that we can shoot in one location and we're not going to get sick of it. And so we spent more on a house than we might have on, if we were just getting a single day's location, because we knew that it needed to really work and have a lot of cool sight lines and a lot of great spaces, and also be big enough for a family of 7 plus the midwife or whoever was there at the time to interact in that space. So it had to be a certain size, but it couldn't be so big, because when it's really big and then it's like, oh, that means that he's making this much money as opposed to this. So
Mm-hmm.
location is a character. So then you had to find the right character. But so in answer to your question, I really worked hard to find a story that would justify being in one location without it feeling like, oh, they're being cheap. They're trying to, and that's because I didn't want to waste people's time, and I wanted to get a great cast, and I wanted people to feel really good about contributing. And I knew that if I could do what Little Miss Sunshine did, and instead of it being in the van a lot of the time, or I knew we wouldn't have the money to be able to go set up a Little Miss pageant, or like
Mm-hmm.
all those things, that my equivalent of the Little Miss pageant. But if I knew that if I could create an environment where I wasn't racing to get to the next location, then the actors would have the time to really do great work. And so
Mm-hmm.
the pressure would be off of like feeling the boot against the back of your neck, and you could and people would be able to give great work. So it's really trying to create a safe place for actors, and be financially responsible, and be able to get the movie made on a good price, so that no matter what, it's going to make money for the financiers. Like, that's what I really want, is I want them to do
Yeah.
well, so that they feel good about they already love the movie, which is the great thing. Like, I'm very happy, but I want them to make their money back, because
Yeah.
then maybe we do another one. So
That's the hope. That's the hope.
right.
I'm curious with your background, because you've worn so many creative hats throughout your career, but getting to from shorts, features, everything in between, to then working on a narrative podcast,
Mm-hmm.
what from all of your experience, like how much you're leaning into that, especially for like short content from like Funny or Die, and how that applied to working on this podcast, and the podcast that I'm talking about, which for our listeners is Dark Air with Terry Carnation, which is such a great listen. I'm a huge fan of that podcast, and just stellar writing, the performances, everything about it is just, it's such a great world to like live in. But I'm just so curious about how you approach that creatively, and just tapping into a new medium as a creative.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm so fortunate that I was asked to be a part of that. Again, like I said, I'd done a short film with Rain, and I'd gotten to know him as a person, and he knew my writing, and I'd written Home Delivery. Like, Home Delivery was one of the scripts that got optioned. It was
Way back then.
yeah, it's been around because it was optioned. And I said I want to direct it. If I had said I don't want to direct it, then someone else, then it would have been made. But
Mm-hmm.
I was really adamant about wanting to direct it. And I was the problem. No one would trust a first-time director.
Mm.
So that was why I started to get more into doing Funny or Die. So it all does tie together. I did the Funny or Die, and when you're in Los Angeles doing Funny or Die stuff, the best place to find talent is Groundlings and Upright Citizens Brigade. So, and I had already been a fan of both and gone to shows at both. So I got to know a lot of people through that. And Rain knew that. And he had seen my shorts that I'd done for Funny or Die. So he asked me to come on board, not only as a writer, as one of the writers, because he put together a team of writers, but also because he wanted me to help produce it and he said, I'll bring in some of the ringers like Tom Lennon and, some of the people who he had, who are more like the A-list comedy talent. But we needed a lot of people to fill the space. And for people who don't know, it is a bizarre show because it is the format is essentially that it's an audiobook that you're hearing. Every episode begins and ends with him narrating this audiobook. And then it goes into the present when it recreates the things, but it's not a recreation because it actually is happening. And then every episode has a portion. He plays a paranormal call-in radio host. So every portion had a call-in segment that would be between 5 to 12 minutes long, depending on who, how it was rolling. So I was tasked with getting a lot of the callers. So I knew that the Groundlings folks and the UCB folks, because they're strong improvisers, because Rain wouldn't know what they were going to ask. Like the writers came up with the questions and then found them, and they were like, here's some ideas that you can play with, and just hired crazy people to go nuts and to absolutely go the full distance. And we all talk about that, how that show really saved our lives during the pandemic, because we got our first writers' room meeting in February of 2020, and then 2 weeks and we were planning on having all the scripts done for a June recording. That was the plan. 2 weeks of recording in the studio, and then 2 weeks later, the world shut down. So what we were able to do is we did everything over Zoom, and because he'd already asked me to be the producer, and I was already on the hook, so I had to come up with how that was going to work. And so we would take these mobile recording things. I'd leave them on, wipe it all down, leave it on someone's front porch. They'd pick it up and take it inside, and we would do these sessions, very much like what we're doing right now. And it was wonderful. So it was I would say between 70 to 80% of it was scripted, and 20 to 30% would be improvised, depending on how much that improvised section would be. But it was always outlined, so we had all that stuff. And what that did to get around to the answer, what that really did for me was gave me such an appreciation for when you ask people to just have fun and play, they're going to, if you get the right people, you have to get the right people on the bus, making sure that everyone's going in the same direction. Like everyone wants to go from Los Angeles to New York City. Like you don't want to have people who are like, yeah, but I'd really like to go on a side trip up to Chicago. It's like, that's great. Not this bus. So like you have to, and as a director, that was all before I got a chance to direct and a feature. So I brought that idea of you want to create a safe place for people to play. Mm-hmm. And so long as you make sure that you're getting the right people on board and you're all making the same story, like you're mm-hmm. all, the tone is very clear and clearly communicated by the director and, the casting agent also, then you'll know that then you can let people really be free to. For me, the biggest thing is I want, especially when I've written it, I'm so familiar with the material. I want to be surprised and delighted by their performances. I don't want to know exactly what they're going to do. I never give a line reading. If someone's like, can you just give me a line reading of what you want? I'm like, I'm not going to know what I want until you do the thing so that I have an idea of like, oh, that's interesting. What can we try this if you were trying to make them cry, or whatever it is, like giving them specific actions to take as opposed to, I want this result. It's more that I want to see what they can take and how they can embody that character and then do the thing. Because if they can surprise and delight me, then the audience who doesn't know the story at all is going to be absolutely in for a wild ride.
I love that. I love that. And just how they can interpret what you've put on as a foundation, a framework on in your script, and how they can interpret that and surprise you, which is what you want. I feel like as a director too, if, you know, where else can you take this that I'm not aware of, which is
right.
All the good stuff is anyways.
Because I don't want to be a novelist. If I wanted to be a novelist, I'd be a novelist. You know, I love that sense of play that you get. And I think that's because I was also a theater, like I was a film and theater double major. And it's that part of the theater part of me that's like seeing not my lines, but seeing how someone responds to Arthur Miller's lines in a way that I didn't expect, or, you know, Oscar Wilde's lines in a way that no one expected, or having two kids. My senior directing thing for theater, for my theater major, was directing the first act of Waiting for Godot, which is a play that is not supposed to be performed by 20-year-olds. Like it is designed for middle-aged men, but I had 20-year. So I was like, you know what? Let's play it like we're slackers and and everyone is like, that's where the energy is like, well, I don't know what I want from my life. So instead of feeling the depression, it's more like, I don't, you know, like I'm kind of aimless. I'm not saying that that was the right interpretation. It was just a fantastic way. I was using what I had, which was 20-year-olds. And how can I make this story something that will resonate for them, for me and for them? And I feel like that's ultimately, you know, I can't go back in time and say, you know what, I'd like to get Kate Hepburn in this movie because that's who I know. And I don't want to tell someone, you should be Kate Hepburn in this. I'd rather find the Malin Ackerman version of this character than her doing a take that's on someone else. Or, you know, I don't want someone for that driver's ed teacher. I don't want someone, even if Jack Black might have been in the back of my mind, I don't want someone to come up and be like Jack Black. Like I want whoever it is to be the person who they are and bring their unique life experience, because that's how we get the memorable characters.
I think that's the beautiful thing about film as compared to novel writing or experiencing a novel. Like every person who reads a novel, it has a different vision in their head of how everything is going to be. And you guys are like taking that vision that's in your head and showing it to us. Like you two could direct the same thing. It would be totally different.
Totally different.
And totally different. Even if you use the same actors, it would be totally different. And that's what I find fascinating. And that's what I love about art and film, because it's like I watched Hamnet. Oh,
God.
oh, I know, just gutted me. It's so
it's a movie I will never be able to watch again because it wrecked me.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Absolutely.
But beautiful. Somebody else could have directed it and been completely different.
Totally.
Did you guys see The Testament of Anne Lee?
Mm-hmm.
No, not yet.
Okay, they actually filmed it where a lot of the film was where my daughter got married. We have a big Shaker community here, and there's a Shaker museum that they're building in our little village. And so they had this screening there, and Amanda was there. I never thought I would say this about the Shakers. It was wild. Like, if you guys haven't seen that movie, after you go see Home Delivery, go see The Testament of Family, because but when you talk about like the bravery of the director, like it was just so unique and different. And that's what I think directing is really cool. One question I have for you. Okay, so you gotta choose writer, director, rock and roll band. Crazy.
Well, that one's I don't want to be in a rock and roll band.
Okay, good.
No, nobody wants to be in a rock and roll band.
But because I almost feel like I'm waiting for you to say you're also a dog groomer. Like you do everything.
Someone asked me the other day, which was fantastic to be asked by a producer, like, would you ever direct something that you hadn't written? I was like, please, I need the insurance. Like, that's great. You know, like, yes, please. And I've also written for other people. You know, there's a movie that I did an adaptation of a novel that the producer pushed for me to direct it, but was told by one of the places that she took it to, we love it. We love Tom's writing. We don't want Tom to direct because he hasn't done something that's at the budgetary level, and it made them uncomfortable. I get it. I totally am fine with that. And the directors that we're thinking about, I love. So like, I have no problem with that. I understand that that's the way that it works. So it's kind of like asking, who's your favorite kid? Like, I
Yeah.
love the different parts of it for me. They each speak to a different thing that I like. I love the world building, but of writing, but I miss people and I miss being around people. So then when I'm on set, it's fantastic, but I miss the ability to kind of shut everything else out
Mm-hmm.
and be in that world of absolute make believe and play. And so and I haven't had the luxury of having like we're only gonna get 2 pages done today. Like every day for me has been today's 6 pages. It's light day. I've had to do 12 pages in a day before.
Ooh, yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about filmmaking is that I do feel like in the best world, it becomes this seamless continuity where you work with people who take what's inspiring about whatever it is, whether it's your writing or someone else's writing that you're inspired by, and then you find the people who connect on whatever level. Like my editor's had 3 home births now.
Mm.
So he had no part in the story. The script was already done, but he absolutely connected to it, and he pitched something before we started shooting. I was like, "Oh, I'm using that."
Yeah.
But it's that thing of when you have people who all, again, using that magnet thing, once you're in the making of the movie and you're digging around and you're finding who sticks to this idea, those are the people that are going to want to be there because they're there not for you, they're there for the idea. And that I think is the most important thing for me is to have to not have my ego attached to those kinds of things, to just say, here's this idea, and if you respond to it, like no one's going to say, well, we got to get that Thom Harp fella, or whatever. Like, and that's okay. Like, I really would much rather the idea be the thing that gets people excited, because the idea
Mm-hmm.
will live on. The idea is the thing that inspired me in the first place. So,
Yeah.
I really want it to be something. And if I'm lucky enough, I can keep finding those ideas that other people want to be a part of and can be a part of making lots of different projects. But I always go back to the idea that the superpower comedy has is that it can break down walls between people, because that laughter is, you have this ability to get out of your head and you laugh whether it's appropriate or not. And that once that moment of like self-awareness, like, oh, why am I laughing at that? Oh, there's something that's inherently foolish about this situation. Maybe there's something that I'm taking too seriously. Maybe there's like, it just starts to crack the dogma. I feel like dogma is our biggest enemy. If we have the ability to accept our own mistakes, then we can more easily give grace to other people and be kinder in the world. So
Mm.
like, I feel like comedy is the way that it breaks those things down. And so long as you're not punching down and bullying people with your comedy, then I feel like it can remind us of what's similar between us more than what's different.
Yes. Well, Thom, thank you
Agree.
so much for this. And everybody go watch Home Delivery. It comes out March 27th. I'm excited to see it. And if you want to experience it, go get pregnant and have a baby.
Yes. This will be the thing. It's like, oh, this movie created all these babies.
Yes,
That's
rise
right.
the population thanks to that Thom Harp guy.
I know. There we go.
Reckless Creatives is a Pipeline Artist original podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow us on social media at Pipeline Artists. And find more info at pipelineartists.com/listen. Until next time, stay reckless.